Legion of loyal listeners and Wildcat fans, we're here at the U-Bomb for the first time ever with our Wildcat Coaches Preview Show. Welcome all.
Welcome everybody. The U-Bomb, the Urban Barn on Maple. If you are not familiar, it's a secret, top secret location tonight. So
is it a speakeasy?
I wouldn't go that far, Mike, but it is a secret location. It's always nice to have an establishment in your backyard is all I'll say about that. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2020 version, the COVID-19 version of our Fall Coaches Show, kind of an abbreviated Coaches Show. Tonight, we have head football coach David Crail. David, thank you for joining us tonight.
Good to be here.
Hey, and Sarah Kealy, head volleyball coach. Really nice splash video, Sarah.
Ooh.
That was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, Sophie Langley does those for me, and she does such a nice job.
Hey, Sophie, we're still waiting on the football one, so just go ahead and let her rip.
It's done. It's done. It's posted. It posted today.
Oh, there you go.
Yep, she
Very
did a great
good.
job.
I like it. And Mike Kealy, Mike, half of the experience, and then Rob Derry back here on production in camera tonight, getting it done as usual. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And this is falling down, so I just got to let it sneak down right now. So until I put that back on in 2 seconds. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I appreciate all the time I get to spend with you at this place.
Yeah, I love it. It's fun. And I'm excited about tonight, learn a little more about what's going on in the fall sports with head coach David Crail and Sarah Kealy in football and volleyball. Volleyball got a chance to kick it off this week. Football supposed to, speaking of kickoffs, literally kick off this Friday night at home against
Chippewa Falls Cardinal.
The Chippewa Falls Cardinals are getting a lot of Chippewa Falls. Played them twice this week, and then football gets a dose of them on Friday night right here at our home facility. They're going to play at Raymer Field again this year, and we're going to be bringing you the game right here on the River Falls Sports YouTube channel. So tune on into that, and I would be there bringing you all the action. So, Mike, why don't we just kick this thing off? Let's get underneath. I'm going to pop the hood.
Okay.
All right, get underneath the hood. Let's go find out what's going on with fall sports.
Check the blinker fluid.
Check the blinker fluid. All right, go
Coaches,
ahead, Mike.
welcome. It's always nice to have you here. Obviously, Sarah, we get to chat all the time. David, always a pleasure to have you guys on. We get an opportunity tonight to do something we typically don't do on YouTube, and that's reflect on last year. So at Medford, at the state tournament, both you guys last year, our YouTube broadcast ends. We pack up in our gear and say goodbye to everybody, but I'd like to know a little bit about what happens, and if you want to talk about the game at Medford, if you want to talk about the state tournament a little bit, and just kind of give a closing segment to 2019.
Go ahead. Football first.
Medford.
Yeah. Obviously, a long trip, certainly a longer trip on the way back. Didn't end the way that we certainly wanted it to. We had a number of really talented kids that played their last game for us, and that's tough. Anytime that you go into a game, we expect to win it, and then when you don't, and you have that really disappointing outcome, it makes it difficult. And then seeing the kids that for the last few years have been such an important part of your program, have it be the end for them. It's difficult. It's a game where, as we looked back at it and we reflected on it, we certainly had opportunities. They were a really good opponent. The running back and their offensive line, and with that offense that they had, it gave us some challenges and some fits. And to their credit, they did a really nice job of holding on to the ball, and and we didn't take advantage of the opportunities that we had. So it was tough, but we hop on the bus, we're on our way back, and we roll with the new year pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. So, David, this is your fourth year, correct?
Yep, going into the fourth year.
Going into the fourth year, so two out of your first three years, level 2 of WIAA playoffs. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a start.
Back to back, Big Rivers Conference champs.
Yeah.
Thanks for throwing that in there. I mean, that hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to be proud of, and the players that even 3 years ago, I mean, they set the foundation for what we've been able to do over the course of this time. And yeah, it's nice. The conference championships are great, and I'm certainly proud of our team for those, and happy for our community to have those. And level 2 is great. We just got to get over the hump, and sometimes those things take a little bit of time, and we were hoping that this year we'd have the opportunity to do so, but we're just going to make the most of the time we have.
Couple things. We're going to get a couple things. I want to do some housekeeping real quick. And that's what I'm going to say. We're going to come back to you. We're going to talk a little bit more about last season. We typically like to always be looking forward. So I'm going to see if I can pull that Wildcat back up on there. Hold on. That one on pause. We might just go to a dark screen and just call it good right there. How about that?
Sounds good.
Hold on. Watch this. Watch it. See, this is a high-level production. We kind of do it on the fly. So watch this. Hold on.
Say, David, real quick. The last year we had something that I was unaccustomed to is you play in Division II all year long, but never knowing that the playoffs shake down the way they did.
Yeah.
That both you and Menominee get moved down to Division III. Something that happens frequently.
Yeah. So the way that football works at the high school level is a little bit different than every other sport. In every other sport, every team makes it in the playoffs. In football, you qualify for it. So where you fall division-wise is dependent upon what teams qualify and what teams don't. So in that instance, we didn't, we thought that we were probably going to go Division II, and then just the way things shook out on that last Friday night of the season with who beat who and who qualified, it ended up bumping us down to D3.
That's crazy.
So yeah, we're gonna go back. We're gonna, we don't like to look backwards too much. We like to look forwards, but we're gonna talk just briefly about your transition into 2020 in a few minutes. My housekeeping item is this. Mike and I have some questions for both coaches tonight, but also you can use our chat section in online. Let's go ahead and we have our phones open, and if you have questions or comments for the coaches, feel free to type them in, and if they're good enough, they might make the air.
Yep. So send me a text. All the Legion has my phone number, so if you want to ask some questions to David and Sarah, send me a text.
Yes, let's do that. So then let's transition from football to volleyball real briefly. Oconomowoc, again, second year in a row. The Raccoons. So I got to say, I am from Waupun and Waupun High School, and we played in what was called the Little 10 back then, and Oconomowoc was in our conference. They were our nemesis back in the 80s, too. The Oconomowoc was always tough. When our football team played Oconomowoc, we were always scared. I mean, they would come in and they get off the bus and full cleats and full pads like warriors. And I was always scared of Oconomowoc. But you played Oconomowoc in volleyball.
Yeah,
and again, so talk to us a little bit about how it ended up last year at state tournament again with Oconomowoc.
I feel like I could echo almost everything he said, is that we had two really good teams that played, and it could have gone either way. We had opportunities. I was a little surprised that we ended up losing 0-3, just because I had so many experienced players on my roster last year. But I think there's a different pressure that comes with being a senior at the state tournament than if you're a junior or even a sophomore, because you've always got that I've got next year. So you can play a little looser because you're not afraid of it being your last opportunity. It's really hard to walk out of the Resch Center, though, when you look at all 6 of those kids I had last year going, wow, they've been here a long time and they're not going to be here anymore, because it just redefines your team and your program. But I had a lot of really young kids last year that I was excited about, and I knew that we would be able to rebuild and kind of change directions with what our program looks like. Still high expectations, and if we had a normal season, my expectation would still be winning conference and going to state. We don't. We have a very reduced season this year.
A culminating event.
And a culminating event, hopefully, at the end of it all. But yeah.
Top secret culminating event of some type.
Yeah. I'm so proud of those kids that graduated and kind of what they're doing now at the next level. And I'm excited about the kids that are in my gym.
Sarah, this is if you finished your what number year?
I am currently in my 11th season.
Your 11th season. So the last couple of years, you've built quite a program. Between both of you, the excitement and pride that you have brought to our community, you might not notice it. I notice it. It has really been outstanding. It really brings a community like ours together through your athletes and through what you've done with your kids. It's really quite impressive. And you should both know and be proud of what you've done for our community. It's really, really outstanding.
Thank you. And I got to say, I love the connection between the football and volleyball programs. There's just a lot of love and support there. I know last year when they did play at Medford, I had a van full of girls. I drove to the game because they wanted to go. We played the next day. I didn't want them to miss it. I wanted to be there myself. So I know Coach Crail came in and spoke to my team before one of our playoff games last year. And it means a lot, because I think that there's...
tear up a little bit, Coach.
Yeah, there's a lot of
came into our
connection
living
there.
room.
So, I want to do some Roy Firestone. If I can get either of you to cry tonight, I'm going to count this as a successful coach's show tonight.
Yeah.
So,
I'll start.
Mike, go ahead, Mike. Start it off.
You've got, the class of 2020 was loaded with athletes in all sorts of sports. I mean, the year before, I believe we won 7 conference championships. Is that correct, in 2019?
I believe so, yep.
So you lost 6 big bangers. Obviously, you had 2 of your players go play Division 1 and Emily Bannett. Hallie Olson, Maddie Kealy's playing Division 2. Abby Larson and Jenna Wolf are Division 3. Jenna Hoopert, I'm sorry. And obviously, Abby Derry had some opportunities. So you got some big holes to fill.
Absolutely. And holes across the board. Like every position on the court basically had a gap in it.
Yeah. And you got 2 weeks under your season already here in 2020. But, I mean, obviously, we've talked about this in your pregame. How do you fill them?
I just think that the younger players that had an opportunity to play with those kids benefited from that because they got to see that example that was set and what the expectation is. And I've got some really good athletes. I think a lot of that credit goes to ETS and Coach Crail for what he's done bringing that into the program. But, you know, a lot of them are playing off-season ball at a really high level. And it's just become one of those things in our program because we've had success for a number of years now that when they get to that level, they usually rise up because they know what the expectation is.
That's outstanding. So let's continue that theme. Let's go over here to Coach Crail. Let's talk about some guys that were just big in your program last year, holes you have to fill. I just have to mention, you know, Peter Noreen, Seth Cole, Joel Stoffel, Riley Hooper.
He might tear up.
Peyton Flood, Austin Mueller, Globitz, Cohen, Audie on the lines. I mean, studs. How do you replace them, Coach? What do you got? Next man up? Are you got guys ready to go?
Yeah, I mean that has to be the philosophy. This is high school sports. You don't get to go out and recruit your players. You get the kids that grow up into the community and show up. So, I mean, every name that you listed right there was a pretty integral part of what we did over really the course of the last 2 years. So yeah, we've got some holes to fill, but I'm super excited and kind of echo those same thoughts. I think that'll be a constant theme because there's a lot of similarities in how we run our programs. It is the next person up, and it is those young kids who get an opportunity to see you compete at a really high level on Friday nights, and they know what the expectation is, and they know kind of what the next steps of that building on that foundation have been, and so they step right in and hopefully continue that.
And unfortunately, we both experienced injuries last year, so some of those kids had to step up and in earlier than, you know, we or they might have been ready, but they got a lot of.
Well, that's good. Let's step into that. Michael Krieger, he was one
Yeah.
who, you know what, you got to call his number. He wasn't expecting to get the kind of attention he had last year, and what an outstanding year he had.
Yeah, Michael's a stud. You know, he got thrown into the fire really after Seth's injury in Menominee, and you know, he comes in and goes from really, I think he had 40 yards prior to Seth's injury, and then ends up being a first-team all-conference running back, and just really carrying the load for us. You know, he has worked his tail off. Quite honestly, he's one of those kids. He's super quiet, but he's just a leader in everything that he does, and we're going to lean him.
His sister wasn't too bad of a volleyball player for Sarah either.
Or a gymnast. Or a track athlete.
Yeah. So obviously, so we're certainly really happy to have him back, and expecting really big things from him starting on Friday.
Talk to us about some of the other returners you have coming back this year who played a pretty integral role last year in your systems and your team, and that are going to be returning this year that you're counting on to take that leadership role.
Well, we've got a number of returners in some pretty key positions. You know, when you look defensively, you've got Connor Cardell. I mean, you start with him. You know, I described him at our banquet as a freak, and I'll stick by that one. He really is just really athletically gifted, and another kid that just works his tail off. And you know, you go back, and Krieger's going to play some safety for us, and you got Jaden Schwans in there, and we've got some senior defensive backs in Cleveland and Mashesky, and
where are you putting Jaden Schwans this year?
Jaden's going to play. He'll play some offense for us. You know, he played out of the slot a little bit last year. Ran that jet sweep for us. You know, really well by the end of the year. So he'll do some of that, and maybe see a little time at running back as well. And then safety. He just flies around, super aggressive. So he brings a lot to the table in that position as well.
Now you got some big horses on the line. Some kids that came in as sophomores, right? I think it was.
Yep.
The Junkyard Dog, and was it Adam Jack Gale and Zipsick and Zipper, and I mean, talking to Nesbitt and Range, they're pretty excited about this year's line.
Yeah, when you go down the line, it's certainly I would argue probably the largest and the most athletic line, all the way across it that we've had since I've been here, and they're all pretty young too, which helps because it builds a little continuity. We've got some older guys there that are mixing in and battling for some positions, but when you can take a guy like Gale and a guy like Tanner that got so much experience last year, and then bring them back and kind of help mentor those people along that didn't necessarily get as much experience, it's going to help a ton.
I was going to ask Coach Shu. I know we talked briefly as you came in the door tonight. We set up for this a little bit. We talked a little bit about your team and whatnot. I hear there's 2 guys that really want to play quarterback for your team.
Yeah, there are, and we've got 2 guys in Ronald and Vito that
talk to us about Ronald and
yeah. Both of them have done just a phenomenal job.
Former student of Mike Kealy, R.J. Sakic.
Well,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why. Yeah. Since both of them have been here, what I've been most impressed with is the fact that they don't come in with these expectations that this is my spot just because we're talking about a junior and a senior athlete. They have worked really well, and I loved how they worked together. In practice, they're competing against one another, and they know it. But at the same time, they're helping each other out. They're having conversations, and it's not a bitter battle that can cause for a really stressful camp. They've competed at a really high level, and each bring their own thing to the table.
So are we going to see Aaron it out? We're going to see a Gretz, or we're going to see more of a Peter Noreen, kind of a game control type guy?
Well, I mean, when you got Krieger, you're gonna run the ball, and you have an offensive line that we really think that we have. But at the same time, I'm really comfortable with the fact that if we want to spread it out and we want to throw the ball, that we're going to be able to do so and do so at a really high level.
Because in your 3 years, you have not had a quarterback for more than 1 year, right? Was it Flanagan and Gretz kind of battled your first year? Was it Flanagan?
Yeah, Flanny and Gretz battled it out, and then Logan broke his foot in week 4, and then so then we had Logan and then Peter.
Is that tough? Is it common in high school football where you're getting a guy for a year?
I don't know. Typically, you probably get them for 2. Usually, if you can get more than 2, then if you're starting a sophomore, you've got a pretty talented kid. So I think 2 would probably be a little bit more normal. But this is just the way it's shaking out for us.
Sarah, let's transition a little bit. Let's get you into the game. I don't know if you're still awake over there. You have the mask on. I can't see any facial expression. So, I had the pleasure of watching your games this past week against the Cardinals of Chippewa Falls, and I tell you what, they got a pretty tough team. They didn't just roll over for you guys, and they gave you some good competition this week. Are you happy with your squad and what you've seen? This year?
We're so early into it. So, I mean, normally on day 6 of a season, we wouldn't be playing conference matches. We would start with a quad, and then we'd have a 2-day tournament. We'd be 10 matches into our season before we ever hit conference. So it was interesting to start with a conference match. That's all we get. And I loved the grit that Chippewa showed. They've got a new young coach. He's in his 2nd season, and he's doing some nice things there. So I was afraid we would go through our conference schedule and not have much of that, but I'd much rather have that than a match that we win 25-2. Hi.
That's the Mike and Rob experience. Season number 5.
I'm familiar with him. Mike, Rob.
I'm trying to hit pause on that. There we go. Go ahead.
All right. So with you guys moving forward, I mean, this year's expectations, obviously, you're under all sorts of new, safety steps and all that. But what are the key players? What are the expectations? I know you're trying to win a culminating event, but let's talk a little bit about 2020.
I told my girls that even though we're in this new era and we don't have a normal season, I'm not going to change the way that I run the program in terms of expectations. I still met with all the girls the first week in a one-on-one, and we talked about what they're good at, what they need to get better at, regardless of how much time we have in the season. I feel like it's my responsibility to them to improve their skills and make them a better teammate, and where they rank within their position, because that's going to translate to some playing time. I'm not just going to run it Parks and Rec style, because it's not only about this season, it's about the rest of the years coming behind that. And I don't want to lose the rhythm that we've developed and just throw this year away.
That's kind of a good segue, actually. I mean, we talked about last year. We talked about this upcoming season, your players you have. We're going to get into a little bit about the COVID challenges in a minute, but let's stay on players right now. You know, you guys have both had some great successes having high school kids play beyond high school, which is a rare thing. Let's just be honest. If you get that
1.5% of the population.
We'll say that again, Mike.
1.5% of the population plays after high school.
Not many. And we've had some great successes in the past couple years under both of your tutelages. What are you doing to prepare these kids for sports and life beyond high school? Is there anything specific you do? Is it just pure raw talent? Are you coaching them up off the field and off the court? What's going on to get these kids prepared physically and mentally to play beyond high school? Coach Crail, you want to go first?
Well, some of it it's obviously they have really good athletic ability. So quite honestly, I don't have much to do with that. But past that, I think it's really just a whole group of things. It's from the training that we do over the course of the off season, and you mentioned it before with ETS and all of the things that our athletes do. I think that helps. I know that helps. I love what our coaching staff does. My assistant coaches are phenomenal. Every single one of them. And these are guys with a lot of experience and are just really smart people. I was talking with one of them, this summer, and if there's one thing that I've done properly in this program, it is bringing around people that are way more intelligent than I am in terms of X's and O's and getting kids prepared. Schurz does a great job. Haskins does a great job, both offensively and defensively, of making sure that they understand the schematics. And so when they go to go and play at NDSU, for instance, or really any school, from an X's and O's standpoint, I think that they're prepared to dive into those schemes. And there's going to be a learning curve, but they understand how offenses work and how defenses work, and all of those things come together. And I do think that it puts them ahead of the curve a little bit.
Yeah, and I would say football and volleyball are very different in the fact that my kids can go play in the off season, whereas there's not, anywhere where people can go play club football. So I do think my kids get a lot of training in that. But one thing that I think we have in common is the coaches on our staffs, us included, are building relationships with these kids, and they're really buying into the program. And I think that when a kid is excited about being a part of it, it's making them want to invest more. And so our kids are very invested in their own development and the development of the team, which is that much more preparing them for the next step.
Sarah's gotten a background that leads. I mean, you're the volleyball ambassador is what I call it, right? I mean, she can go up to the head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers, who she knows from when she was 12 years old, and have a personal conversation with Kelly Sheffield. So when we go to all these club tournaments and these players are wanting to play after high school, Sarah can go right up to, what's your buddy at Northern Illinois? I mean,
Ray.
I mean, she just knows everybody. She sends out our link to coaches that are interested in players. And
it was funny because he was looking for an outside probably 2 years ago, and Hallie and Emily and Maddie were on the same club team, and he was watching them, and I said, who are you looking at? Well, I like that one, I like that one. And I said, oh, they're both mine. And he said, well, if you could only have one, who'd you pick? And I said, I don't have to, I get them both. And I just like that. I love that I do have those relationships, because then I can help facilitate it for them too.
So for all you kids listening in tonight, talking about relationships, I'm sure there's a TEDx out there on it. If there's not, I'm going to do one. But relationships and good relationships are vital to everything you do in your life. Knowing people, having people know you and trust you.
Yep.
And then fostering those relationships through life sincerely. And those connections will get you and people into places and get opportunities you might not get otherwise. So it's very important.
It's not always easy, because we're having some tough conversations. I mean, he's got a quarterback decision to make, right? So he's got to tell one kid, I'm going to go with this kid over you. And it doesn't mean I don't value you and that you don't play a major role in my team and my program. So I think having that trust built so that those kids know that they still are an important part of what's happening, because if not, it can be very divisive.
Yes.
Well, we had a good story take place in the Hudson gym. Rob and I were doing our broadcast at a Hudson match, and Sarah's high school coach is the Purdue head coach, and I see walking up to my right, I see this big bald gentleman. I'm like, Rob, I said, you know who this guy is? And he's like, who? I go, the big bald guy. I said, that's Hugh McCutcheon, head coach of the Golden Gophers, there to look at Anna Wolf. And so I'm kind of talking up the Golden Gopher program, and Dave sends me a text from Purdue. Hey, back up on the Minnesota thing. We're still in the running for Anna.
Yeah. If I hear you say his name one more time.
So there's other things that you underplayed, and I'm going to get up in my soapbox a little bit again here just because I can. It's our program and I can do it. But the value of youth sports and high school athletics, it cannot be underplayed. You know, what the decision of whether or not to play, to allow kids to play, what high school athletics has got for every single one of us sitting here tonight, the relationships we made with our coaches, the things we learned, how to win, how to lose, how to get through adversity, how to become a better person, how to make sure you understand that schoolwork is got to be number one in everything you do, how to treat people right, how to be honest, all this stuff encapsulated in a thing we call a season of volleyball or a season of football or youth baseball, right? That's why sports are important. And I think that's also why, not that you can't do it without athletics or band or cheerleading or organized athletics, but I'm telling you, kids that are involved in this are getting ahead in life. They're getting a jump start. They're getting a taste of what real life is like. They're finding out what they can do to get ahead. And you guys understand that, and you're subtly projecting that onto these kids. Your character traits within your district, the things that you do. Again, those are so important and so vital. Yeah. And when you're not doing the youth sports, you're missing out on all of that. And it's a shame. And I'm not going to cry. I almost did right there. But
I will. I can talk with David for my son.
I'm just telling you. So you folks in this community and what you do for kids, there'll be kids that remember you till the day they die. You and I, we could all go around right now and just talk to the coach and what impact they had in our lives. Absolutely. It's so important. And to keep sports alive, to bring your temperament, your temper, your attitudes, your drive, your understanding of kids. I hope you stay here a long time because you're making very positive impacts in what we do.
Thank you.
And I want to say, too, this is why I do it. I mean, I'm hoping to build up youth sports. This is somebody says, why do you do this, Kevin? That's partly why. Uh-oh. What do I hear? Could it be Wildcat Trivia right in the middle of the program?
Of course, if we've got an opportunity to do Wildcat Trivia, we want to get all the people out there. Abby Derry won $30 from Ziggy's. Maddie won $10.
She's taking us out to dinner, I think.
So here is your Wildcat Trivia question for the coaches show. David and Sarah, in 3 years.
Since we've been together.
Since they've been together. Your Wildcat Trivia question is, how many total wins do they have between the two of them in the last 3 seasons?
Yep.
That's the Wildcat. What are we playing for tonight, Mike?
We'll play for a $10 gift card to Ziggy's.
Why not? Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, we'll give away a pizza to Luigi's. It doesn't matter. I got all sorts of gift cards. You want a massage? I'm going to let you take the pick. You want a kayak trip? Yeah.
And I want to remind folks, too, if you have questions, you can chime in. I see Paula Flood. She's on and says these two build relationships better than anyone. So Paula's giving a shout out as well.
Thank you, Paula.
So, yeah.
All right, now we got to get into the nasty of the coronavirus. So
let's go there.
You guys, I'll tell you, Raleigh and the staff did a great job looking at what Chippewa Falls, not determining or putting them down at all, but Raleigh did a great job of setting the gym up.
Yeah.
He had chairs for every single parent, spaced evenly apart. So I guess I want to know and let the viewers know a little bit about what some of the steps are and what you guys have to do in 2020 in the COVID period.
Well, there's a lot of documentation that goes on because, like we've said, if you have one player who's out because maybe a sibling got tested and you're waiting for results and the whole family's out and then the contact tracing, and so there's a lot of behind the scenes paperwork that's happening. But I think in general for volleyball, I had to stagger practice times. We used to have 4 teams at practice from 3:30 to 5:30, so we were all in the gym together. Now I've got 2 going early, 2 going late, so it just gives us a little more space in the gym. I've done a lot of ball disinfecting and hand sanitizing. The girls play in mask. I wear a mask when I coach.
Are hands a little dry?
Yeah. You wear a mask when you broadcast. So I do think it's a lot about physical spacing. Our bench can't be straight across anymore, so we've got to go kind of like the NBA does with a zigzag pattern on that, which is a little awkward. No captain's meetings at the start of the match, so it's just coaches and officials, and no, obviously, handshaking. We don't switch sides.
Paula Flood guesses 110 total wins. Your little Abby Derry guesses 125. Keep going, sir.
That's kind of the gist
still
of
too
it.
low.
When we travel, we would put 2 teams on a bus. Now we can't because you cannot have a max of 23 on a bus because all the kids have to have their own seat. So we're used to traveling, and I could watch the JV play. Now I don't get to. Luckily for me, you guys are broadcasting them, so I'm watching the JV on my phone as we're headed to the match. It's just a different world.
David, how are you handling it? How are you handling the situation with the kids and, the safety of the kids?
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversation. Football seems to be kind of at the forefront of that, just because of the nature of the sport.
Yeah,
and
we're considered high risk. But
yeah, we're
look at you.
yeah, and so I think first and foremost, when you look at the job that our administration has done, quite honestly, from top down with kind of figuring out and navigating this process, I think that they've just done a remarkable job of really helping us figure out how we're going to make this work. It started with us getting approved to play, obviously, and then from some of the safety standpoint, we purchased all these shields that we were going to use, and then we were told the shields don't work. So, so now we'll be playing in masks as well. They've done a couple things, logistically in regards to the field. You'll spread out. You'll see that our athletes are spread out on the sideline from 10 to 10 instead of going to the 20.
Do your kids have specific masks or any masks that they have to wear? I mean, underneath their helmet, they're wearing masks.
Yes. Yep. We'll wear masks when we play.
Sleeves. I mean,
and they'll be here delivered by Amazon hopefully by Tuesday.
perfect.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out real quick to our athletes that spoke at the school board meeting. I had Danny Lean represent volleyball and
Alex Mashevsky.
Yeah, represented football, and there was a boys basketball player, Zach Johnson, that spoke.
No, I think Zach Johnson spoke as well. Yes.
Yeah, and they just did a fantastic job of relaying the message that we understand it's a different world, but we are committed to doing it safely because we just want a chance to play. So,
So David, this is all going off the road here, but I see the shot of you in the camera tonight with Aaron Rodgers right over your shoulder. It looks like you're sitting in the end zone at Lambeau Field. I don't know if you're going to be able to live that down with your Seahawks fans.
It's pretty disappointing, quite honestly.
we have 28 minutes left in the show because we got the Seahawks.
Seahawks are playing tonight.
Yeah.
Priorities.
All right, can I finish the Wildcat trivia? We're gonna give away more money
what?
to dairy number one. Your total wins in 3 years, David, you said you've had 19.
Yep.
Sarah, you've had 125.
Yep.
144 total. Abby Derry guessed 143 total wins. So,
Dang.
Abby Derry, you are the Wildcat Trivia winner again, and you'll soon be on band.
And your dad expects you to take him to Ziggy's when you go.
You want Ziggy's? What do you want, Abby? Luigi's?
Congratulations. Wildcat Trivia. It never gets old, Mike. It never
does.
gets
People
old.
love it.
Hey, I'm going to turn this bus around a little bit and go back to kind of where we were. We talked about high school and where we were in high school. Who? Give me a coach. Throw me out a name. Somebody that was impactful to you that still today you think about and go, you know what? I'm glad I played for that guy or gal.
Grady Bennett.
Grady Bennett.
Yep, he is now the head coach at Glacier High School in Kalispell, Montana. When I was there, Flathead High School was the only high school. They're the largest high school in the state. They've since split into two, and now he was the offensive coordinator when I was there, and is now the head coach at Glacier High School. Just a really influential individual, teacher, coach. Outside he was pretty influential in regards to helping us start the FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes program there at Flathead High School, and a guy that I still exchange messages with and emails with to this day. So
he's well aware of how you feel about him?
absolutely. Actually, probably about 4 years ago, I was challenged by another coach to actually write a letter to the coach that influenced me the most, and so I did that.
Did you send it?
I did. Well,
I just wrote it. I feel really good about it now.
I may have cheated. it was an email, but yeah, I got done.
Well, that's cool.
Any kids that circle back to you yet and let you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's always kids. I'd look quite honestly, the kids that have been here. It's just nice to have those conversations, the text messages, and all of that. There's been a number there, and then from my time at Northwestern too, you look at Nate Pearson, who's just a stud for UMD, and Reagan Rufai, and some of those kids that, they reach out, and what I love and what means the most to me is, for like our playoff game at Kakana, they came down and watched that game, so they had their game on Friday night. We played on Saturday, so they came down and watched, and super supportive of not only myself, but also my family.
What I think is great is I know Michael Kealy, Mike mentioned this, thinks the world of you and the impact you had on him. And he could tell you that right now as a senior, as a graduating
Changed his life.
college freshman. But 20 years from now, when you're an adult with a family and a career, you'll realize the value of the lessons that were taught. Like right now, you're in the moment, so you appreciate the experience. But like Mike said, it's going to be 20 years from now that he's really going to be like, yeah, I learned that from Coach Crail. So I think that's important.
All right, Coach Mentor. I think I know the answer.
Yeah, I had a really amazing high school volleyball coach in Dave Shundell, who left my high school a couple years after I graduated and took the head coaching job at Purdue. So he's been in the Big Ten for
High school to Big Ten.
for 20
How's that
seasons.
for a jump?
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah. And just the amount of volleyball that I learned from him, but also the need to be accountable. I was a leader on that team. I didn't even realize it at the time. So the importance, the impact I could have on other people was really learned through him. And I had another club coach that I really enjoyed, in Jim Craig, who's still coaching high school volleyball.
Not the hockey goalie. Jim
Yeah,
Craig.
no. He was actually the band director at his teeny little high school in rural Indiana. When they added volleyball because of Title IX, he decided he was going to learn how to coach volleyball because he didn't want his band kids to miss band to go to volleyball. So he was doing both of them. And like you said, you surround yourself by really good assistant coaches. And he didn't know volleyball, but he knew kids and how to motivate them. And he always
had the book.
Yeah, he always had an assistant coach that could teach the X's and O's, and he was the relationship guy. So I think between the two of them, kind of helped shape me.
All right,
And I got to tell you, my assistant coach Fred reached out to Dave 2 years ago, and Dave sent like a 30-second video, and he played it at the banquet about how proud he was of me, and I started crying, and I'm like, now the girls are going to know I'm not tough. Like, you blew my cover.
Mike, I'm going to give a real brief story
Yes,
related to
I
this.
love stories.
So I moved here just about 8 years ago now, and it's probably a year before I moved here.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, please do.
Renee Derry says that Abby Derry decided not to play college sports so she could prepare for Wildcat Football.
She's been
She's been
studying
training.
hard. It's paying off.
Obviously working out for her.
Is she 2 for 2 now?
Yeah.
Rob can't laugh. He still has banged up ribs.
So about a year before I moved here, I was laying on the couch, and I had a knock at the front door. And my wife says, I could hear her talking to someone at the front door, and it's a kid named Sean Katona. And I hear him say, does Kevin still live here? And she says, well, yeah. And she said, Kevin, come to the door. Sean's here, Sean Katona. I had coached him in hockey about 17 years earlier, and he was delivering sub sandwiches to somebody next door. He knocked on our front door, and he says, hey, Coach, I just want to let you know. He said, I need to say thank you for coaching me and what you did for me in high school. He said that he had been in jail for a couple of years, and he goes, I thought about a lot of the things you told me very often. He goes, and it helped me actually straighten my life out.
That's awesome.
So 15 to 17 years later, I know you folks are having that type of impact on kids. This isn't a story about me. This is a story about coaching and the kind of impacts coaches have on kids, and why, again, why athletics are so important.
Yeah.
So important.
All right, back into high school. I want to see how comparing your past is. I want to know what you guys were like as high school as students and athletes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back. Sarah was a class of 96 grad. David, you were a class of
2000.
2000. What were you guys like
I'm
in
that
high
much
school?
older than you?
Yeah, sorry.
Students, athletes, friends, in the classroom, on the sports, what were you guys like?
Well, I'll start because I know how good she was, and so
I didn't ask how good you were. I said, what were you like?
What was I like?
Yeah,
That's
well-
a totally different conversation.
yeah, what was I like? I don't know. I was a solid 3.6 guy. I did what I needed to do to get the good grades, and I have told my classes that there were times where I'd take the bathroom pass, and I only lived a block and a half away. So sometimes I would venture out the front door and go
He went
home
to his
for a
own bathroom.
sandwich. So I've got some stories like that. But I was a guy who tried really super hard to be athletic.
How many sports you play? What were all the sports you played and activities?
It's just football and basketball until I got from basketball, and then just football.
Coach Kealy?
I was a volleyball basketball gal. In the classroom, I kind of did what I needed to do to get by. I was probably more of a
Great role models.
3-2, 3-3 kind of student. I actually transferred schools between 8th grade and my freshman year because Dave recruited me. And, I think 20-some years later, he's safe. But
Stop being a violation.
yeah, to go from such a small school to a larger school, I really had to navigate it socially.
So Yorktown, where you grew up, I always say, is just like River Falls minus the college.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you grew up in.
Yeah. I had a graduating class of 110 maybe, and I went to a graduating class of 320. Much more, diverse. So I had a lot of social things I had to learn and navigate, but I wouldn't have wanted to be in any different environment.
There you go, Triple Falls.
Yeah, I was very, very competitive, probably to a fault with needing to be the
Did
best.
your
at
coaches
everything.
like you guys? Were you good coachable kids?
Dave actually had a quote in the paper that said, "She's always been a leader. I just wasn't sure she was always leading us in the direction I wanted us to go." I think so. I think when I had so much respect for him that when he said, "No, it's got to be this way," and I think it was different times. I do a lot more communication, I feel like, with our kids nowadays than he did. It was just, go do this because I told you to, and the athletes said okay back then, and now you've got to have some dialogue about it and make sure that the parents are in on the communication. We're all on the same page. It's just a different time.
I think quite honestly, for that question, part of what allows for me to be successful in terms of the relationships with all of our kids is the fact that I got along really well with my coaches, but I was not a star athlete by any stretch of the imagination.
I can relate.
I
scored a high
I worked
goal.
my tail off, but I played behind some Division I players that were just absolute studs, and so I didn't get the opportunity to play. And in all of our sports, no matter what sport you pick, you are going to have those individuals that are going to be under the spotlight and have that spotlight all of the time. But it's everybody else that makes this thing tick, and I'm really I'm happy that I had those experiences because now I can have conversations with all of those kids
About their value,
about how important it actually is.
It's outstanding. Mike, I'm looking at the Dad's Root Beer clock on the wall. Oh, yeah. And I know there's a Seattle Seahawks games in exactly 17 minutes.
Yes.
So we need to take this thing on the home stretch.
All right, let's talk about this real quick. You guys are around your staff and your players a lot, so as I always say, I'd like to know a funny story that you guys share. It could be with your staff, it could be with your team on a bus, whatever. There's got to be something in all your years of history being around.
I hate it when you do this because there's so many funny things that happen, and as soon as you ask me, I just draw a blank. My team's hilarious. I love the time that we spend together, and it's usually things that aren't probably that funny to anybody else, but we just did a team bonding, and I told the girls, hey, we don't have a fundraiser this year, which I know the parents are doing backflips because they're not trying to deliver 800 boxes of cookie. Rob's giving a fist bump. But it does impact some of the opportunities and things that we have to go do. So Sophie volunteered to take pictures of them, and I said, we'll go surprise Fred, who's no longer on the coaching staff, at Ziggy's and have dinner. So we went in there Friday night, and just to listen to them as we're driving over, laugh and giggle, and totally be not focused on the competitiveness and the training part, and just being enjoying each other. And we walked in, and surprised Freddie, didn't know we were coming, so he cried, and the girls were crying. And they had dinner together, and then a friend of mine that was in there picked up the tab. So all of the girls' dinners were paid for
That's
by.
awesome.
There you go. That's a good memory right there.
Yeah.
Not that funny, but it's good.
No,
David, you got
they're
one-
funny,
you got one
but
story?
I know they don't want me sharing their.
I've got probably plenty of stories. We spend a lot of time together in the weight room and all of those with the kids. But probably one story that was just really cool to see is Coach Forster's been here for forever and a half.
43 years.
40,
Oh my goodness.
43
He's
years
been coaching longer than we've been
Yeah,
around.
yeah. And I
And
tell
I'm
you
older.
what, that man, he is so incredibly special to me. And in this short amount of time that I've been here, I just love the man. And going down and traveling to Madison and watching his induction ceremony into the Hall of Fame was so cool to see.
That's amazing.
And to see him stand up there and accept that award, and knowing how many kids that he has been able to influence over a 42-year career and still continues to do it today. He is loved by our kids. That was a pretty cool thing to be a part of.
That's awesome.
I'll do rapid fire, and then you can wrap it up.
I was going to do one question, then rapid fire.
All right.
Because I just want to get sentimental one more time.
Oh, here comes Roy Firestone.
Yeah, it is. And actually,
Jerry Maguire.
if I don't do this and your family's watching, they'll be mad I didn't ask it. So
Okay.
I know as a coach or as a whatever, this here, it's not just you. It takes some serious sacrifice from your family. How do you balance work, coaching, and family? How is that done?
Well, depending on who you ask, poorly might be the adjective that's used at
Views
times.
from our house here. So it's easy.
Yeah. Bethany has been just so incredible throughout the entire coaching career. I mean, we've been married now 17 years, and I've coached for, this is going on 13 of them, and to have her support. And what I love is, and some of it we haven't been able to do. Like, we have our leadership, they come over every other week, and they're at our house, and we got 20 guys packed in our living room, and she loves it. And to get to know the guys in a way that's beyond just football, and to have kids that have been coming for the last 3 years, and at first they're like not having a conversation with the coach's wife, but then now I can't pull them into the meeting because they're sitting down having a conversation with the coach's wife, and with our boys and all of that. It's so important that everyone is it doesn't work. It would not work. The amount of time that is it would take away from the family if your family's not included in it. It would be too much, and really the families of all of our coaches. It's a tremendous sacrifice to have your husbands go and working with other people's kids, and so all of our families are remarkable.
Who do you have the most contact with on your staff? Who's the person you're calling, texting all the time?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I bother him a lot.
You showed me a text message and email from Haskins, I believe, and the due diligence that he does in the film room.
Yeah. Well, so you guys talk about how at the end of the season, the season is it's over, but from our standpoint, it's a little bit different. And Omar, we call him, Haskins, the defensive coordinator. What he does it's to a whole nother level. At the end of the season, I'm receiving. And I'm not making this up. It's an 11-page document that looks at every single game and what worked, what didn't, what were the tendencies. I mean, it's incredible. And like I said, that's what I mean by having people that are way more intelligent than I am on staff that care just as much as I do.
Sacrifice and commitment. I heard those two words in that, and sacrifice is a big one. There's a lot of sacrifice going on by a lot of people to allow you to do what you do.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
There's no doubt. Sarah, how about you? How does your family do it?
I'm really lucky
I get
because
sad a lot.
when these two guys came up with this crazy idea about broadcasting and connected with you, I think it made it something that Mike and I are doing together. Obviously, I'm coaching the team and I'm invested in a different way, but to have he and Rob come to all of our matches and just be a part of it means a lot to me because he's part of the experience that I'm having. Yeah, you guys are an experience, and I get to be a part of that, I guess. But no, just going to the state tournament and going into the media room after a win or a loss, and Mike raises his hand to get the mic, and he says, "I'm Mike Kealy with the Mike and Rob Experience." YouTube.com, He has to announce himself awesome. Every time he takes the mic.
Heck yeah.
Why
wouldn't you?
It's a tension breaker. The girls are laughing, and then he always hits me up with a question on the night that we lose, and everybody's crying. Yeah, he's the first guy to start crying, and now we're crying. And
Bob Burrow says the volleyball season's not over until Mike Kealy's crying in the press room.
But I just love that we can experience that together. And my mom moved here from Indiana 2 years ago, so it gives us some peace of mind knowing that we can go and do things. And she's holding down the fort at home with Ryan and Parker, and she's probably watching tonight. Hi, Mom. But before she lived here, I had former players that were coming back and nannying for us during the volleyball season because we didn't have anybody else to be with the little ones. We were both gone. So, it's Grandma Dar and the little kids have to know that Mom's going to be gone more than normal. And I go out of my way to try to find time to do fun things with them so that they don't feel like, I've dropped off the radar for a month or two. But it's hard. It's sacrifice.
It is. No, it's awesome you guys have committed to it. It's awesome. It's awesome you surrounded yourself by people who allow you to do what you do. Right. So it's pretty cool.
You talked about Haskins and being a data guy. That's who Fred always was for me. So out of my 11 years, he and I coached together for 10 of them. And we jokingly say that he broke up with me in January and went on to new adventures. But I told the girls that we're going to roll with the slogan of defining moments for our season because you get to choose how you want to move forward. And I'm not going to say I didn't cry when Fred left, but it also makes me reevaluate how I'm coaching because I can't just go through the motions because we've adapted to our roles. Now I have to stop and think about it. And I'm trying to give other assistant coaches opportunities to step up and show some of their skills. And I rely on the girls a little more than I used to, in those leadership roles. So I think everybody, you can look at it one way or another, and we're going to choose to be appreciative and positive about it.
David, Sarah's big about her motto. What's the 2020 motto for this year's football team?
We stick with the same. Make them notice. We added to it a little bit last year when the whole conference talk was happening, but make them notice that's what we're sticking with, and it's important for us as a program to keep that philosophy and making sure that we're doing the right things at home, at school, and community, and on the playing field.
Do you ever let the secret out who them is?
No.
Make them notice? Do you ever tell anybody who them
No, I
is?
just keep everybody guessing.
It's everyone. School,
Yep.
community.
Hey, Mike, bring us home. Let's do a little rapid fire.
You guys-
Let's do a rapid fire as we take this thing right on
answer
in.
these as quick as you can. David, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Sarah?
Dogs.
One superstition you have?
I was just talking to Parker about superstitions today. I'm not superstitious at all. Sorry, Rob. I know you are, but
David, you got a superstition?
Nah, not really.
Wow,
No.
you guys are good. Best vacation ever taken?
oh, jeez. I really liked our family cruise. I know the kids talk about it a lot. That was fun.
We 2 spring breaks ago, we went to San Francisco and then drove up the 101 up the coast to
that's nice.
Washington with the boys, and that was awesome.
One thing from your bucket list.
I want to.
You guys are getting older. You better start making
I
your
want.
bucket list.
I want to ride in a hot air balloon.
There you go.
I wanted to run a marathon, and I did it, so I'll be done with that.
For you.
All right.
Yeah.
Favorite food?
Pasta.
Ice cream.
What do you do when you have some time to yourself?
Binge watch reality TV.
Soap operas, now reality TV. Wow.
Right.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to give you something like really profound, but my wife is watching, so I'm just going to say that I perused the Twitterverse.
Yeah.
Introvert or extrovert?
Okay, I know you don't agree with this, Mike, but I am an introvert. I do like social situations,
No
but
explanation needed.
my battery recharges when I'm by myself.
Extrovert.
Favorite post-game tradition, either after a win or a loss?
I really enjoyed the year that we were able to go out afterwards and like parents and, we would go have some dinner or something. It's just nice to celebrate success as a group.
There's a lot of times. Sometimes I join, sometimes I don't. But Coach Forrester, he likes to buy a couple pizzas for the coaching staff. So.
All right, Westy, what's next on the YouTube? You can wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I think we should wrap this up. Again, we got kickoff now in like 6 minutes,
Oh, my
according to the
goodness.
dad's clock from 1958, and that thing still works. So how about that? Anyway, football is Friday night. Chip Falls right here in town. Then you're going to go on the road to Rice Lake, on the road to Menominee, on the road to New Richmond.
Oh.
Then we're going to play for the Little Brown Jug again against
Yep.
Hudson, last game of the season. That is what is on the docket if
Yes.
all things can stay on the rails.
Yeah, right.
Tomorrow night, we're at home against Rice Lake. Thursday, we're going to be up at Rice Lake for a home and home for week number 3. The Wildcats are 4-0 this year. Trying to improve. Culminating event.
2-0. The JV's 2-0. And the blue and gold team won
We
last
just
week,
played
too.
Chippewa Falls. That's all we played this
Yes.
week. Wow. Season's flying by.
It is already.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, you were there both.
Yep.
I tell you what, Mike, I think we do what I like to do, and I end my broadcast a little different than the experiences. I put a big red bow around this thing. So let's put a big red bow around this tonight. I need to thank head coach David Crail and head coach Sarah Kealy. I just can't keep that thing on right now as I finish this up. David Crail, Sarah Kealy, thank you guys so much for
Yeah,
taking the
Thank you.
time
Well, it's
to
fun.
share your experiences with the rest of the planet Earth. There's 7 billion potential viewers. Hope we get 100 tonight. How about that?
There we go. Take it.
On behalf of Mike Kealy, Rob Derry, The Experience, I'm the +1, Kevin Westhouse. Thanks again for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow night for volleyball and then Friday night for Wildcat football. Until then, everybody, good night.